Hi everybody, and welcome back to Room 9, our region's largest classroom. My name is Miss St. Louis, and I'm a teacher at Rogers Elementary School in the Mehlville School District, and we are located in South St. Louis County. Today, I'm here to teach a reading lesson that's geared towards students who are in the 3rd grade, but all learners are more than welcome to learn and explore along with us. So let's get started. This week, we are going to be exploring all things nonfiction texts. Now, to review, the purpose of a nonfiction text is to give us information, right? Nonfiction texts are sometimes called teaching books. The purpose of them is to teach us new information. Now, I love reading nonfiction books because I can learn about new places, new people, and new things. But I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I often find that nonfiction texts can be a little bit harder to read than fiction books. Do you sometimes feel that way too? Yeah, it's kind of strange how that works out, but there's a reason for it. Nonfiction texts are written about specific topics, and along with those specific topics comes specific vocabulary words. So if I was reading a text all about being a doctor, I would see vocabulary terms that go along with being a doctor, like medical procedures and medical tools. Now that vocab is very specific to the topic that it's about, in this case, doctors. And I'm not a doctor, so I may have never seen some of these words before, and that can make it a challenge to read them. But it can also make it a challenge sometimes to know what those words mean. And so that's what can make reading a nonfiction text a little bit harder, because some of those vocabulary words are unfamiliar with us, and they can kind of make us stop sometimes and really think, what did I just read? But there's a way that we can solve those words on our own. And it's by using context clues. So today, we're going to be talking all about using context clues with nonfiction texts. So context clues are clues in a text that can help me to determine the meaning of an unknown word. So it's a bit like putting on your detective hat, right? We have to use some of the background information given to us to try and determine the definition of a word, because we know that sometimes nonfiction texts can have glossaries in the back that help give us definitions, but glossaries don't always give us the definition of every single word. So we might need to use our context clues. So you're probably thinking, where can I find these context clues? Well, they're written in the text, and we can find them in a few different places. We can look at the rest of the sentence that occurs after a word. We can look at the sentence that comes before the word, or we can look at the sentence that comes after, right? Looking at the text that's surrounding the vocab word I'm trying to solve is what's going to help me to determine its meaning, right? I'm going to look for clues that help me to figure out what exactly is this talking about. So when you think you figured out the word, and you're like, oh, you know what? I think I know what this means. You can always check it, right? I know in math, a lot of the times our teachers tell us to check our work. Well, we can check our work in reading too. So we can take that unknown word that we're trying to solve and replace it with what we think it means, right? Like a synonym. Synonyms are words that mean the same thing. And then we can ask ourselves, does this new word make sense? And if it does, that means that we've probably figured it out. But it's always good to double check in a glossary sometimes. What we're going to do now is we are going to test some of our context clue knowledge when I read some sample sentences, okay? So in each of these sentences, there's an underlined word that we may not all know the definition of. And we're going to use the context clues around it to help us figure out if it's the right word. And then to double check, we're going to replace that word with a synonym and see if it makes sense. Are you ready to give the first one a shot? All right, here's my first sentence. At the end of a long and busy week, I am exhausted and I need a nap. The word that's underlined is exhausted. I'll read the sentence one more time while you try to look for some context clues. At the end of a long and busy week, I am exhausted and I need a nap. What clues are you seeing in this sentence? Oh yeah, we've got that long and busy week, right? We've probably all experienced those. And at the end, we need a nap. So usually if we need a nap, what does that mean we might be feeling? Very good, tired, right? So let's see if the word tired fits in here and the sentence still makes sense. At the end of a long and busy week, I am tired and I need a nap. Does that sentence make sense with that new word? Awesome! You guys just used your first set of context clues. Let's try another sentence. A healthy diet is beneficial to your health and wellness. So the word that's underlined is beneficial. A healthy diet is beneficial to your health and wellness. What are you thinking here? Now we're talking about a healthy diet, right? Which usually means foods that are good for us. Fruits and vegetables and good grains. Health and wellness, right? How we're feeling, our well-being. So what do we think? What could beneficial mean? Oh, maybe positive, right? Maybe it's a positive thing, right? Good. Strong. Great. Let's see if that one of those would fit. A healthy diet is good to your health and wellness. Sounds a little funny, but sometimes not all words fit perfectly. We might have to change it up a little bit. What if I said a healthy diet is good for your health and wellness? I think that sounds pretty good, don't you? Yeah, so when something's beneficial, right, that means that it's positive, right? If it's beneficial, it benefits myself, right? So it benefits me to have a healthy diet to keep my health and wellness up. Good work. All right, let's do another one. During the holidays, my family always eats a massive meal with 3 courses. Uh-oh, I forgot to underline the secret word. I guess I'll just tell it to you. The word we're looking to try and find is massive. So let me read this sentence again. During the holidays, my family always eats a massive meal with 3 courses. Massive. Well, we're talking about the holidays, right? And I know for my family, when we eat at the holidays, we eat a lot of food. And 3 courses, that might mean that we have like a starter and our main meal and dessert. You can't skip dessert. It's a lot of food. So what do you think massive might mean? Big, gigantic, huge, right? Let's see if one of those fits. During the holidays, my family always eats a huge meal with 3 courses. Does it still make sense? All right, let's move on. Oh my goodness, another one where I forgot to highlight the tricky word. Oh my goodness. There is such a plethora of t-shirts in my closet that there is barely any room left. The word we're trying to figure out here is plethora. So let me read the sentence again as you look for some context clues. There is such a plethora of t-shirts in my closet that there is barely any room left. Well, if there's not a lot of room left, right, that means that lots of space is taken up by these t-shirts. And if the t-shirts are taking up a lot of space, how many do you think there are? A lot, right? A ton, so many. So there is such a large amount of t-shirts in my closet that there's barely any room left, right? So sometimes we have to add more than one word to make it fit in the context of a sentence, but plethora means that there's a huge amount. There's so many. Do you also have a lot of t-shirts in your closet? Because I know that I do. All right, next sentence. Sharks are some of the most treacherous animals in the ocean. So the word we're trying to solve is treacherous. So let me read that sentence again. Sharks are some of the most treacherous animals in the ocean. What do you think treacherous means? What are some of those context clues? This one's kind of tricky, right? But what do you know about sharks? They're dangerous. Stealthy. Ooh, that's a great word. Stealthy, right? Sneaky. Big, right? Now, treacherous. Does that sound like a good word or a bad word? It kind of sounds like a bad word to me too. So let's see. What's one of the bad words you guys guessed? Dangerous. Let's see if that fits. Sharks are some of the most dangerous animals in the ocean. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it does. Now, this is one of those that we might always have to double check in the glossary since there weren't a lot of context clues. But remember, I took one sentence out. If there were more sentences that followed, they might help me and give me more context clues. Because maybe it could go on to say, sharks are some of the most treacherous animals in the ocean. They eat hundreds of fish every day. I'm just making that up, right? So there might be some more clues in the rest of the text that really help me to solve that word. So don't just look at the one sentence. Look at the things around it too. All right. Carrying my hefty backpack makes my shoulders hurt. Any of you feeling that too? Like your backpacks are making your shoulders hurt a little? So you might have experienced having a hefty backpack. Well, what do you think that word means? Hefty. Yeah, heavy, right? Carrying my heavy backpack makes my shoulders hurt, right? It's heavy, it weighs a lot, and so your shoulders are gonna hurt a little bit more. Very good. All right, we've got two more to solve. Whitetail deer can regenerate their antlers when they break off. Now that key word here we're looking to solve is regenerate, and I'll read the sentence again. White-tailed deers can regenerate their antlers when they break off. Okay, so their antlers, they break off. Regenerate. Rebuild, recreate, regrow. Let's see. White-tailed deer can regrow their antlers when they break off. Does that sentence make sense? Yeah, that's a pretty cool fact, don't you think? I think so too. Last sentence. The bonfire was neutralized by the bucket of water my uncle threw on it. The key word here is neutralized. The bonfire was neutralized by the bucket of water my uncle threw on it. What do you think neutralized means? Well, we're throwing a bucket of water onto a bonfire. What's going to happen to the bonfire then? Yeah, it's going to go out, right? So, what could we put there? Destroyed. The bonfire was destroyed by the bucket of water my uncle threw on it. The bonfire was put out by the bucket of water my uncle threw on it. All pretty good words, right? So neutralized means that we cancel it out. Okay, so we're canceling out that bonfire by putting the water on it. Very good. Rock on. Give yourself a pat on the back. All right, give a pat on the back with the other. You guys really did an awesome job using those context clues to determine the meaning of some of these words. But I think it's time to put it to the real test, don't you? We're going to put it to the test by reading a book. Now, the book that we're going to read today is called A Wonderful World of Weather, written by Barnham. And this series is one of my favorite series. So there's a lot of other books in this series about animals and different weather patterns. Super cool. So if you ever get a chance to check one of them out, I definitely recommend it. But this book is going to be all about weather. So I can already think in my head, there's going to be a lot of weather vocabulary in here. So, what are some weather words I know of? Rain and snow, water, cold. So there are some vocab terms that I'm starting to think, I might see some of these. But you never know. There might be some new ones in here. So let's dive in to check it out. The wonderful world of weather. Did you know there is a layer of gases around our planet? What's a gas? What do you think? What is a gas? Let me keep reading, see if it helps us. It's called the atmosphere. The atmosphere contains the air we breathe. That's right. The air I'm breathing is a gas. Do you know what gas it is? Oxygen. Very good. It also protects us from the sun's rays. When sunlight warms the atmosphere, air swirls around the world. The movement of air makes all of our wonderful weather happen. Today, the weather is sunny. There are no clouds. The wind is very light, and the sun shines brightly in a clear blue sky. Sunny days can happen any time of the year. They can happen in the summer when the temperature is hot. They can happen in the winter when it might be snowy and cold. Temperature. What do you think that means? Temperature. When the temperature is hot, they can happen in the winter when it might be snowy and cold. Yeah, temperature measures how hot or cold the air is, right? Very good. Look at these fluffy clouds. They almost hide the sun. When the sun is hidden, the temperature becomes cooler. Clouds are made of tiny droplets of water and ice. First, the sun warms bodies of water, such as oceans and lakes. Water vapor rises from the warm water. As it rises, it cools and changes into the droplets that make up the clouds. Water vapor, that's a new word. Water vapor. What do you think that is? Oh, very good. Yeah, it's the water in the air, right? So we know, and we might use a little bit of our science knowledge, that when we take water and heat it up, it evaporates into the air, right? So that's water vapor when it's evaporating. Very good. You've been putting your science brains to the test here today. Some clouds are dark and low to the ground. Inside these clouds, the water droplets have grown bigger and heavier. Splish, splash, plip, plop. The water droplets are too heavy. They fall back to the ground as raindrops. It's time to open the umbrella. They look like they're having fun. I know that my dog Winnie loves to play outside in the rain. It's one of her favorite things to do. Do you like to play out in the rain? It can be pretty fun, can't it? When sunshine hits raindrops, the sun's light is split into different colors. A rainbow of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet light spreads across the sky. Watch out for double rainbows. These happen when the sunlight is scattered twice by each raindrop. Ooh, that word, scattered. What might that mean? When the sunlight is scattered twice. Oh, maybe like broken, right? When it's broken apart into two, right? Very good. Ooh, way to use those context clues. When the temperature is cold, ice crystals form inside clouds. They stick together to make snowflakes. When they grow big and heavy, the snowflakes begin to fall. Every snowflake has 6 sides. Each beautiful snowflake has a unique shape. Ooh, unique. What do you think that word means? Ooh, yes, individual, right? They're their own shapes. Each one's special. Sometimes the temperature is too cold for rain and not cold enough for snow. Sleet is a mixture of rain and snow. It starts to melt as it falls to the ground. Mixture. What's a mixture? Sleet is a mixture of rain and snow. Like a combination, right? It's when we put 2 things together. Very good. Hailstones are lumps of ice that form in some clouds. Some hailstones are tiny, others are bigger than ping pong balls. Here in Missouri, sometimes we get really big hailstones. Have you ever seen a really big hailstone? Pretty cool. Thunder clouds are large and dark. They sometimes look scary. Rain, hail, thunder, and lightning all come from thunderclouds. Lightning happens when small pieces of ice inside thunderclouds hit together. Lightning flashes from cloud to cloud and leaps down to the ground. Thunder is the sound the lightning makes. I didn't know that. Frost can appear when the temperature drops below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or 0 degrees Celsius, at night. At this temperature, water freezes. Frost is frozen water vapor. This spider's web is decorated with sparkly, twinkly frost. Meanwhile, the puddle of water has frozen into ice. Watch out! The ice is very slippery. Mist happens when water vapor stays close to the ground. A lot of mist can create a thick fog. A thick fog makes it hard to see. People must travel very carefully. Cars travel slowly, and sometimes airplanes do not fly. The sun warms some parts of Earth's atmosphere more than others. When air is warm, it rises. At the same time, cool air sinks. Air is always moving, and this movement can cause wind. Wind can be light and breezy. It can also be very strong. Sometimes wind blows so hard that it's hard to walk against. Sometimes weather can be dangerous. A hurricane is a huge storm. The wind is so strong that it can damage houses and blow down trees. Hurricanes can also cause flooding. The strong winds can push ocean water onto the shore. Hurricanes can also bring a lot of rain. A tornado is another dangerous storm. It's a spinning column of air that sometimes happens when there is a thunderstorm. A tornado's wind is so strong that it can pick up buildings, trees, and cars. We can all take steps to stay safe from dangerous storms. We can watch weather forecasts that warn us about storms. We can prepare by gathering supplies or going to a safe place if we know a storm is coming. Okay, so we have those words, a forecast. Yeah, like a prediction. The word foreshadowing, right? We're predicting things that are coming. So a forecast is a prediction. Very good. What about preparing? Good, getting ready, right? We're getting ready to do something. Excellent job. And that is the end of our book. Very good, guys. You know, I noticed that as we were reading this book, you guys were doing a really great job figuring out some of those new vocabulary words, right? And using the context clues to figure out what they are, while also using a little bit of your schema. Now, schema is all that information that you already have in your brain, that you've already collected from either things that you've learned or experiences you've had. So you have lived through some different types of weather. So you have experiences with them and may have already heard some of these vocabulary terms, whether that be by watching a forecast on the news or by having a conversation with your peers or adults around you. So you can use that information to help you, and that's your schema. So your schema can help you, but also so can context clues. Now today we talked all about context clues, which are the clues in a text that can help me to determine the meaning of an unknown word. So we can use the sentences in a book, right, that surround an unknown word to help us figure out what that word means. We almost have to take on the role of being a bit of a word detective, and we have to think critically about what that word can mean. And so we have to look at either the rest of the sentences or the sentence that comes before and after to help us. And when we figured out that word, we can replace our unknown word with a synonym or a synonym phrase and reread the sentence. Then we can ask ourselves, does this new sentence make sense? And if it doesn't, we need to go back to the drawing board and recheck context clues. But if it does, that means that we were able to correctly use our context clues to identify the meaning of those unknown words. Now, this doesn't just work in nonfiction texts like the book that we read today about weather. We can use context clues in fiction books as well to help us identify the meaning of unknown words there. Okay, so context clues are all around us. And this is a skill that you can use every single day when you are reading books and you come across a word that's unknown to you. It's a great way to help build up your personal vocabulary and learn some new awesome words. So boys and girls, I hope that today you learned something new and that you'll take these skills and use them in your reading classes as you continue on throughout the rest of your third grade year, or first or second or fourth or fifth, or whatever grade that you're in. But thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you'll join us for the rest of the week as we continue to dive in and explore nonfiction texts. Bye everybody.
Teaching in Room 9 is made possible with support of Bank of America, Dana Brown Charitable Trust, Emerson, and viewers like you.